I never used to care much for Valentine's Day. Too much pink, too many fake smiles, too many expectations. But this year was different. This year I had Claire. Claire was perfect. Smart, funny, and just the right amount of sarcastic. We'd been dating for 4 months, and she insisted on making our first Valentine's Day special. She booked a cozy cabin in the woods, promising a weekend of wine, warmth, and no distractions. Just us. I didn't know then how much I'd regret saying yes. The drive took longer than expected. The forest thickened as we climbed higher into the mountains. Snowflakes drifted lazily through the air, dusting the road in an eerie, pristine white. The GPS lost signal an hour ago, but Claire had written down the directions. She smiled at me from the passenger seat, completely at ease. I should have turned back when I had the chance. The cabin was beautiful but unsettling. It stood alone in the clearing, surrounded by skeletal trees, their bare branches like fingers reaching for the sky. The windows were dark, and when we stepped inside, the air was thick with dust, as if no one had been there in years. Claire lit a fire, and the glow chased away the shadows for a while. That first night, I woke to the sound of footsteps, not Claire's, something heavier, slow, deliberate. I held my breath, listening. The fire had burned low, casting flickering shadows on the walls. The sound came again, closer this time. Floorboards creaked near the bedroom door. I turned my head, expecting to see Claire still asleep beside me, but she wasn't there. The door creaked open. My pulse thundered in my ears. "Claire?" I whispered. Silence. I sat up, my breath catching as I saw a figure standing in the doorway. It wasn't Claire. A man stood there, his face obscured by darkness. His head tilted slightly as if studying me. My stomach twisted. Then, just as suddenly, he was gone. The door swung shut. My heart hammered against my ribs as I scrambled out of bed. I checked the cabin, but there was no sign of him, no footprints in the fresh snow outside. Claire came back moments later, holding 2 glasses of wine. "You okay?" she asked, frowning. "You look like you saw a ghost." I told her what happened. She laughed it off, saying I was just tired. Maybe she was right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The next day I found something strange. Under the bed, hidden beneath a loose floorboard, was an old, tattered Valentine's Day card. The paper was yellowed with age, the handwriting shaky and smudged. "For my dearest Evelyn, forever yours." I showed it to Claire, and her face drained of color. She hesitated before saying, "It's probably from some couple that stayed here before. Let's not let it ruin the weekend." But I saw something in her eyes. Fear. That night, I woke up gasping, my chest tight with dread. Something was in the room. I heard whispering. A voice, deep and wet, as if speaking through blood. "Evelyn, come back to me." Claire bolted up right beside me, her eyes wide with terror. She heard it too. The whispering grew louder. The cabin walls groaned. The air turned ice cold. The fire snuffed out instantly, leaving us in complete darkness. Then the door burst open, and I saw him again. This time, I saw his face. His skin was gray, sagging over sharp cheekbones. His eyes were black pits, hollow and endless. His lips peeled back in a grin too wide for his face. He reached for Claire. She screamed. I grabbed her and ran. The front door wouldn't budge. I slammed against it, my fingers scrabbling for the lock. The whispers turned into shrieks, filling my head with unbearable noise. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The door swung open on its own. We tumbled outside, gasping for breath. The cabin was silent again. No lights, no figure in the doorway, just the wind howling through the trees. We didn't look back. We ran to the car, drove until we saw civilization again, and never spoke of that night. Later, I did some research. I wish I hadn't. The cabin belonged to a man named Leonard Whitmore. In 1952, he brought his fiancée, Evelyn, there for Valentine's Day. She never made it home. Her body was never found. Leonard hanged himself in the bedroom weeks later, scrawling a single message on the wall in his own blood, "Forever yours." I don't know if it was Leonard I saw that night. I don't know if Evelyn ever truly left. But every Valentine's Day, I dream of that whisper, that voice calling for someone who will never return. And every year, I wake up with the suffocating feeling that someone is still watching.